President Donald Trump, who often describes himself as the biggest fan of the Second Amendment and the National Rifle Association, threw them both under the bus Wednesday, February 28, in a remarkable soliloquy that also shredded other parts of the Constitution, continuing his harsh criticism of how Florida law enforcement responded to a mass shooting at a Florida high school 2 weeks ago. The Republican president told a bipartisan meeting of lawmakers that police should have taken the shooters' guns away whether they had the right or not. The police saw that he was a problem, they didn't take any guns away, Trump said. Now that could have been standard policing, but they should have taken them away anyway, whether they had the right or not. Regardless of how you feel about gun control, it is chilling to hear a president urging police to ignore fundamental rights and the kind of governmental overreach that his friends at the NRA have often warned would happen under a Democratic administration. And it's not that Trump didn't realize that his proposed plan of action violated constitutional rights to own and bear arms, the protection against unreasonable searches and seizures, and the guarantee of due process under the law. I like taking the guns early, like in this crazy man's case that just took place in Florida. To go to court would have taken a long time, Trump said. Take the guns first, go through due process second, Trump said. Vice President Mike Pence tried to get the president back on the rails by talking about due process and giving local law enforcement more leeway to get a court order to collect firearms from potentially dangerous people. But Trump is having none of it. Mike, he said, take the firearms first and then go to court, because that's another system. A lot of times, by the time you go to court, it takes so long to go to court, to get the due process procedures. I like taking the guns early. Much of the frustration flows from the fact that law enforcement officials and others had been alerted to disturbing behavior and comments by the Florida shooter that indicated he could be a lethal threat to others, but he was still allowed to buy a semi-automatic rifle and launch his attack on the school campus. The shooter had undergone a psychiatric evaluation in 2016 but was not hospitalized or committed, which could have put him in the National Background Check database and prohibited him from purchasing a firearm. Trump said he believes that guns should be taken away immediately from people that you can judge easily are mentally ill, although he did not explain who would be making that evaluation and how. Exactly a year earlier, Trump signed a bill rolling back an Obama-era regulation that made it harder for people with mental illnesses to purchase a gun. The rule added people receiving Social Security checks for mental illnesses and people deemed unfit to handle their own financial affairs to the National Background Check database. The Obama administration estimated it would have added about 75,000 names to that database, although it would not have covered the Florida shooter. The National Rifle Association applauded Trump's action in repealing the regulation last year. Chris Cox, executive director of the NRA Institute for Legislative Action, said the move marks a new era for law-abiding gun owners, as we now have a president who respects and supports our arms. But Trump seemed to almost taunt the NRA on Wednesday, calling for a comprehensive bill on gun control raising the legal age for buying a rifle from 18 to 21. Which is the current limit for purchasing a handgun. He asked Senators Pat Toomey, RPA, and Joe Manchin, DW. Virginia, if they had included the new age limit in the gun legislation they are working on. They said they had not. You know why? Trump asked. Because you're afraid of the National Rifle Association. Some of you people are petrified of the NRA. You can't be petrified. You can't be petrified. NRA spokeswoman Jennifer Baker said Wednesday that the organization supports improvements to the mental health system, improvements to the existing instant background check system, and efforts to keep dangerously mentally ill people from having firearms, but with due process for those who are wrongly accused. Now they just need to convince the president that due process is something worth preserving. Tim Morris is an opinions columnist at NOLA.com. The Times Picayune. He can be reached at morris@nola.com. Follow him on Twitter at Morris504.